25 October 1415. 06:30 a.m. Agincourt, northern France. Rain. It has been falling for a week, not a drizzle. A relentless biblical deluge that turns the world into gray slop. Thomas is 19. He is a Fletcher from Wales. He is also dying, not from a sword but from his own bowels. Dysentery has stripped the flesh from his bones. He has no trousers on. None of the archers do. It is simply too messy to keep them on. If you are standing next to Thomas, the smell hits you first. Rot, excrement, fear. Then, the cold. It bites through the linen tunic, settling deep in the marrow. Thomas looks across the field. 500 yards away. That is all that separates him from the end of his life. 06:45 a.m. The mist begins to lift, revealing the scale of the execution. The French army. They do not look like an army. They look like a shimmering wall of steel and gold. Countless banners. The fleur-de-lis snapping in the wind. The finest heavy cavalry in Christendom. The numbers are terrifying. Some say 4-1. Others say 6. Calculations do not matter when you can see the horizon filled with men who want to kill you. To the French, Thomas is not a soldier. He is vermin, a peasant with a stick of yew. Capturing him would be beneath their dignity. If they catch him, they have promised to cut off his fingers, the two used to draw the string, and send him back to England as a cripple. 07:00 a.m. Look at them, Thomas whispers. His hands are shaking, not from fear, he tells himself, from the cold. Next to him is Edward, old Edward, 40 years old. Skin like leather. He is sharpening a stake, a 6-foot pole of ash pointed at both ends. Let them look, Edward says. He does not look up. But look at the ground, lad. Thomas looks down. The field between them is a plowed horrorscape, heavy clay soil, soaked by 7 days of rain, trampled by horses yesterday, frozen overnight, and now thawing into a thick, clinging soup. To the French lords, this is a battlefield. To a farmer like Thomas, this is a bog. 07:15 a.m. Across the field, a trumpet sounds, pure, arrogant. The French knights are jostling for position. Everyone wants to be in the front row. Everyone wants the glory of running down the English king. They are wearing the pinnacle of 15th century technology. Milanese plate armor, 60 pounds of hardened steel, impervious to swords, proof against lesser arrows. A suit of armor costs more than Thomas's entire village will earn in 10 years. It makes them invincible. It makes them gods of war. Thomas looks at his bow, a simple piece of wood. Then he looks at the mud. They are heavy, Edward, Thomas says. The realization comes slowly. Not a shout, but a whisper. Edward finally looks up. He plants his stake in the soft earth, angled forward. Aye, the old man grunts. And the mud is hungry. King Henry V rides past. He looks tired. His crown sits on a dented helmet. He does not give a speech about glory. Not here, not in the rain. He stops near the archers. All things are ready, the king says. His voice is calm. If we die together. If we live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. Thomas draws an arrow. The knock clicks onto the string. The sound is small, but in the silence of the dawn it sounds like a gavel coming down. The impossible is about to happen. The gods of war are about to step into the peasant's trap. October 1415. The road to Calais. To understand why the mud mattered, you have to understand the desperation. For 17 days the English army had been walking, not marching, stumbling. They were trying to reach Calais, safety, ships, home. But the French army shadowed them, blocking every bridge, guarding every ford, herding them like cattle into a pen. That pen was Agincourt, the numbers game. Historians argue about the exact figures. Some say 6, 0 English against 30, Iwero French. Others say 9, were against 12, Iwero. But numbers on a page are sterile. Let us humanize the deficit. Look at the English line. There is William, a carpenter from Suffolk. He has marched 260 miles on half rations. He has no shoes. The leather rotted away 3 days ago. He wraps his feet in rags that are slowly fusing with his sores. There is John, a mercenary. He hasn't been paid. He hasn't eaten a hot meal in 2 weeks. He is fighting now simply because surrendering means death. 6,000 men, mostly archers, starving, sick, exhausted. Now look at the other side. The French army is not just larger, it is fresh. These men slept in beds last night, they drank wine. They ate roasted meat while Thomas and William chewed on hazelnuts scavenged from the forest floor. But the real disparity wasn't biology. It was technology, the invincible shell. The French man-at-arms was the equivalent of a modern tank. He wore the white harness, complete plate armor. Jean, a young viscount in the vanguard, wears a suit custom-fitted in Paris. The steel is tempered. The curves are designed to deflect arrows. If you strike him with a sword, it glances off. If you hit him with a mace, the padding absorbs the shock. He feels invincible, because for the last 200 years, he has been invincible. In open combat, heavy cavalry always beats light infantry. It is simple physics. Mass times velocity equals slaughter. The French plan was simple, traditional, and terrifying. Form a massive line of heavy cavalry. Charge. Crush the peasants. It had worked for centuries. It was the standard solution. The geometrical death trap. But Jean and his commanders made a fatal error. They looked at their armor, but they ignored the map. The battlefield at Agincourt was a funnel. Thick woods on the left, Tramecourt. Thick woods on the right, Agincourt. The gap between them was narrow, perhaps 750 yards wide, and the English were at the narrow end. To reach the English, the French would have to squeeze 20,000 men into a space meant for 5,000. Crowded, shoulder to shoulder, knee to knee. They are too many, old Edward says, watching the French ranks swell. He taps his stake. Good. They will have nowhere to move. The French commanders saw the narrow field as a minor inconvenience. They did not realize it was a mechanical grinder. And then, there was the soil. The French were betting on speed, but the ground was betting on friction. Jean sits on his horse, 200 pounds of destrier warhorse, plus 60 pounds of armor, plus his own weight. Almost 3/4 of a ton, resting on 4 hooves. On dry grass, that is a thunderbolt. On waterlogged clay, it is a piston driving straight into the earth. The stage was set. The solution of heavy armor was about to become the problem. The aristocracy was about to charge into a physics equation they did not understand, and the peasants were waiting. Andro 8:00 a.m. The standoff. For 3 hours, nothing happens. The French are not stupid. They know the English are starving. They know dysentery is doing the killing for them. Why fight today? Wait 2 days, and the English army will simply dissolve into corpses. King Henry knows this too. He looks at the sky. The rain has paused, but the ground is churning. He has 2 choices. Wait and die of hunger. Do the unthinkable. Advance banners, Henry orders. It is madness. To move an army in front of heavy cavalry is suicide. The archers have to uproot their protective stakes, their only defense against the horses. For 20 minutes, 6,000 men are exposed, naked. If the French charge now, the battle is over in seconds. The English would be trampled like grass, but the French do not charge. They are arrogant, or perhaps they are just surprised. They watch the peasants drag their stakes forward. Closer, within range, the architecture of death. Thomas plants his stake again. He breathes heavily. He is now 250 yards from the French front line. He holds his weapon, the longbow. Forget what you have seen in films. This is not a hunting tool. It is a 6-foot piece of yew, cut from the heart of the tree where the wood is densest. It is a machine. The physics of the peasant. To draw a modern sporting bow takes 40 pounds of force. To draw Thomas's warbow takes 120 pounds. Try to lift a grown woman with 2 fingers. Now do it 10 times a minute. It changes a man. Skeletons of Agincourt archers dug up centuries later show twisted spines and enlarged left arms. The weapon literally warped their bones. String. The order ripples down the line. Thomas steps into the bow. He pushes with his left arm, pulls with his back. The string hums. He takes an arrow from the sheath stuck in the mud. A bodkin arrow. No broad head for cutting flesh. Just a heavy, square chisel point of hardened steel. Designed for one thing, punching through mail and plate. The provocation. Why use arrows against arrow-proof armor? It wasn't about killing. It was about annoyance. Knock, draw, loose. The sound is not a twang. It is a roar, like a sudden gale tearing through a forest. 5, 0, 0 arrows launch simultaneously. They arc high into the gray sky. Gravity takes over. They accelerate, the rain of iron. Across the field, the French knights hear a sound like hail on a tin roof. Clang, ping, thud. Most arrows bounce off the breastplates, but some find gaps. A visor slit, an armpit, the neck of a horse. It is not a massacre yet. It is an insult. To be pelted by peasants from a distance? To stand there and take it? It is unbearable for a French nobleman raised on tales of chivalry. The discipline breaks. The French plan, to wait to envelop, evaporates in a cloud of anger. "Attack!" screams a commander. "Forward!" shouts another. The French line ripples. The horses step forward, slowly at first, then trotting. The trap is sprung. Henry V didn't need to defeat the armor yet. He just needed to goad the gods into stepping into the mud. And now, they were coming. 9:00 a.m. The charge begins. It starts as a rumble, deep, guttural, felt in the teeth before it is heard in the ears. "Here they come," Edward says. He doesn't shout. He just grips his hammer. The French first line, the cream of the nobility, spurs their horses. On the flanks, the cavalry aims for the archers. In the center, the dismounted men-at-arms begin their trudge. For the first 50 yards, it is magnificent. Sunlight breaks through the clouds, hitting thousands of polished breastplates. It looks like a river of silver flowing uphill. It is the image of war they paint in chapels. Beautiful. Orderly. 09:03 a.m. Then, the river hits the clay. The physics of failure. Viscount Jean is in the first rank of the cavalry charge. He expects wind in his face. He expects the thunder of hooves. What he gets is a lurch. His stallion Bucephale hits the plowed earth. Hooves that are designed for turf punch straight through the crust. Shin deep, then knee deep. The gallop becomes a canter. The canter becomes a trot. The trot becomes a stumble. "Move!" Jean screams. He kicks the horse's flanks, but you cannot kick physics. The mud creates a vacuum. Every time a hoof lifts, it makes a sickening, sucking sound. Schlock, schlock. The conflict of command. Behind Jean, the second rank is still moving fast. They haven't hit the mud yet. They crash into the backs of the first rank. "Back! Go back!" Jean yells, twisting in his saddle. "Forward for France!" screams a duke behind him, unable to see the mire. It is a traffic pile-up in slow motion. Horses panic. They rear up, slipping on the slime. 200-pound beasts fall sideways, pinning riders into the liquid earth. The archers view. Thomas watches this from behind his stake. He expected to be dead by now. He expected to be trampled. Instead, he sees the most feared army in Europe doing something impossible. They are walking, slowly, painfully. "They are stuck," Thomas whispers. He looks at Edward. "They are stuck, Edward." Edward nods. He doesn't smile. "Loose." He grunts. The slaughter of the horses. The English archers do not aim at the knights. The steel is too thick. They aim at the horses. The animals are huge targets, unarmored on the flanks. A storm of arrows descends. Horses scream, a sound more human than animal. They buck. They bolt. Wounded horses don't run away. They run through. They turn back, crashing into the advancing French infantry, breaking bones, trampling their own masters. The first fall. Jean's horse takes an arrow in the neck. It rears. Jean is thrown. He lands on his back. Thud. The mud splashes up. He tries to stand. This is the moment he realizes the truth. In the training yard, on dry sand, he can stand up in his armor. It takes effort. But he can do it. Here in the clay he pushes down. His gauntleted hands just sink into the soil. He has no leverage. He is a turtle on its back. He flails. The mud coats his visor. He can't breathe. He hears hooves coming towards him. "No!" he gasps. "Wait!" The line presses on. The French army is not fighting the English yet. They are fighting the ground. And the ground is winning. 11:00 a.m. The killing zone. The arrows are gone. Thomas reaches into his quiver. Empty. Around him 500 archers reach the same conclusion. Technically, this is the moment the English should die. An archer without arrows is just a farmer in a linen shirt. Facing him is the white wall. Thousands of French men-at-arms who have finally waded through the mud to reach the English line. But something is wrong. The physics of the crowd. Look at the French line. They are not fighting. They are drowning in air. The funnel effect has worked too well. Thousands of men pushed from the back. The front rank is pressed against the English stakes. The second rank is pressed against the first, the third against the second. Immersion. Inside the tin can. If you are a French knight in the third row, you cannot lift your sword arm. There is no room. You cannot breathe. Your chest plate is compressed by the man behind you. You are 6 feet tall, encased in steel, and you are helpless. Men begin to die without being touched, suffocated, crushed upright. The dead do not fall. The press is so tight they remain standing, swaying with the mob. The decision. Thomas looks at the wall of steel swaying before him. He looks at his bow, useless now. He drops it. He looks at the ground. There is his mallet, a heavy lead hammer used to pound stakes. It is ugly, heavy, brutal. "Right," Edward says. He pulls a falchion, a short, heavy cleaver from his belt. "Let's finish it." The swarm. It happens in an instant. The archers swarm out from behind the stakes. They are light. They have no armor, no heavy boots. They dance over the mud where the knights are sinking. It is like a pack of wolves attacking a stranded whale. The inversion of order. Thomas runs at a French knight who is stuck to his knees in the clay. The knight is the count of something important. His armor is engraved with gold leaf. He tries to swing his sword. He is too slow, too heavy, too tired. Thomas does not fence. He is a carpenter. He knows how to hit a nail. He swings the lead mallet. Crack. It connects with the helmet. The steel does not break, but the skull inside does. The count drops. The taboo broken. This was not war. This was murder. For centuries, you did not kill a nobleman. You captured him. You ransomed him. A knight was worth 5,000 zlarn. To kill him was to burn money. But Thomas does not care about ransom. He cares about the friends who died of dysentery. He cares about the fingers they threatened to cut off. He pulls a knife, a misericord, a thin dagger designed for mercy. He jams it through the visor slit of the fallen knight. There is no mercy today. 11:30 a.m. The English line holds. The French pile up. A wall of bodies forms, literally. The English climb on top of the dead Frenchmen to kill the ones behind them. The aristocracy of France is being beaten to death with hammers by the men who plow their fields. The world has turned upside down, of thousands of wounded men. The field of Agincourt is no longer a field. It is a graveyard constructed of mud and steel. In front of the English stakes, the piles of French dead are terrifying. They are not scattered bodies. They are mounds, walls, 3 men high in places, the living trapped beneath the dead, drowning in the blood that pools in the clay. It is a total victory. The flower of French nobility has been cut down by men who earn 4 pence a day. The human arithmetic. The numbers begin to circulate. The Constable of France dead, the Admiral of France dead, 3 dukes, 5 counts, 90 barons, princes of the blood captured. It is the decapitation of a nation's leadership in 3 hours. Thomas sits on a log. He wipes his knife on the grass. He's alive. He checks his limbs. 2 arms, 2 legs. He starts to laugh. A hysterical, jagged sound. He has survived the end of the world. The cost. But do not think this day was free. Victory always demands attacks. The Duke, Edward of Norwich, 2nd Duke of York, 42 years old. He didn't die from a French blade. He didn't die from an arrow. He was a big man, heavy. In the crush, he fell. He wasn't stabbed, he was smothered, pressed into the mud by the weight of the men he led. He died of heat stroke and asphyxiation inside his own 4,000 suit of armor. The technology that was meant to save him became his coffin. The boys. And then, the cruelest cost of all. While the archers were butchering knights on the front line, a French contingent circled back. They raided the English baggage train, the camp. There were no soldiers there, just the pages, the servants, the boys. Robert, 12 years old, son of a London merchant. He was there to guard the king's spare wardrobe, found with his throat cut. Davy, 13 years old, a stable hand. He had promised his mother he would bring back a French coin. He never even saw the battle. The Earl, Michael de la Pole, Earl of Suffolk. He was 19, the same age as Thomas. His father had died at the siege of Harfleur just weeks before. Michael held the title for less than a month. One luckless blow. The de la Pole line devastated. The balance sheet. Thomas stops laughing. He watches a cart go by. It carries the body of the Duke. It carries the body of the boy, Robert. The archers won. The strategy worked. The mud was their ally, but 112 Englishmen lie dead in the clay. 112 men who walked 260 miles, fought off dysentery, survived the rain only to die on the day of glory. War does not care for irony. It only cares for blood. 1450, 35 years later. Normandy, France. Thomas is 54 now. His back is permanently bent. His left shoulder is twisted, the mark of a lifetime pulling 120 pounds of yew. He is one of the few Agincourt veterans left. He watches the new recruits training. They are not holding bows. They are holding iron tubes mounted on wooden stocks. Handguns, the evolution of war. Agincourt was a peak, but peaks are followed by valleys. The French were arrogant, but they were not unteachable. They learned. In 1429, at the Battle of Patay, they didn't wait for the English to set up their stakes. They charged the archers while they were still marching. It was a massacre. The English yeomen were ridden down before they could knock a single arrow. The invincible weapon was proven mortal. The economics of killing, but it wasn't just tactics. It was economics. Thomas looks at his grandson, Henry. To make Henry an archer, Thomas started training him at age 7. 10 years of building muscle, 10 years of warping the skeleton. Takes a lifetime to make a master bowman. Then Thomas looks at the man with the gun. He is a baker. He joined the army last week. You can teach a baker to load a gun in an hour. You can teach him to fire in a volley in a day. A bullet doesn't care about your muscles. It doesn't care if you are tired. It punches through the breastplate that cost a French duke his fortune. And it does it with a puff of black smoke. The death of chivalry. Agincourt was the wound that killed chivalry, but gunpowder was the nail in the coffin. The muddy field in 1415 proved that a peasant could kill a king. It broke the sacred contract of feudalism. Before Agincourt, war was a sport for the rich. After Agincourt, it became an industry for the masses. The last pink. Metaphorical connection to the Agincourt mud. Thomas touches his old bow. It hangs on the wall now, dried out, brittle. He remembers the sound of the arrows blocking out the sun. He remembers the nights drowning in the clay. He knows the world has changed. The romantic era of individual skill is dying. The industrial era of chemical warfare is being born. It's loud, Thomas grumbles, watching the gunner fire. Smoke fills the air. It smells of sulfur, not honest sweat. And it has no soul. The gunner shrugs. He reloads. It kills, old man, he says. That's all that matters. The transition. The English longbow didn't disappear overnight. It lingered for another century. But the dominance of 1415 was gone. The unique combination of terrain, weather, arrogance, and skill that created the miracle would never align so perfectly again. The mud of Agincourt had dried, the blood had washed away, and the future belonged to the chemists, not the Fletchers. 2025, Agincourt, France. The field is quiet now. There is a crucifix by the roadside, a small museum. Farmers still plow this earth. Every year the blades turn up debris, a rusty arrowhead, a buckle, a coin. The iron has dissolved, but the memory has not. The Shakespearean echo. Why do we remember this battle? We have forgotten Blenheim. We have forgotten Malplaquet. But Agincourt endures. Partly it is Shakespeare. He took the desperate speech of a tired king and turned it into poetry. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. But poetry does not win battles. Physics does. The legacy of Agincourt is not just a play. It is a warning that echoes through 6 centuries, the eternal lesson. Agincourt teaches us the danger of the perfect solution. The French had the best armor, the best horses, the most money. They had optimized their army for a specific type of war. They were perfect, but the world is messy. The world is wet clay. The world does not care about your pedigree or your expensive suit. When the environment changed, their perfection became their prison. The peasant solution, flexible, cheap, desperate, won. It is the ultimate underdog story. The carpenter with a hammer beating the CEO in a tank. The bloodline. Let us go back to Thomas, the archer from Wales, the man with dysentery and a twisted spine. He survived that day. He went home. He married. He had children. They had children. Do the maths. 25 generations have passed since 1415. The exponential growth of a family tree is staggering. If you are British or of British descent, there is a statistical probability that you are walking around today because a 19-year-old boy didn't slip in the mud, because he swung a lead mallet faster than a duke could lift a sword. The final truth. We like to think of history as a list of kings and queens. Agincourt proves otherwise. History is decided by the man standing in the mud, holding the line when he should be running away. The armor of the French earls is in museums now, polished, behind glass, safe. But the spirit of the archers is not behind glass. It is in the cultural DNA of the English-speaking world. The idea that the few can defeat the many. The idea that character matters more than equipment. The exit. Stand in that field today. Close your eyes. Ignore the cars on the D104 road. Listen. You won't hear the king. You will hear the rain. You will hear the suction of the clay. And you will hear the heavy, exhausted breathing of men who looked at the impossible and shot it down.